What is going on, Crisis Actors? It is episode 995 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I am here with my guest co-host for the day. Would you introduce yourself, please?
She's back. Yes, it's Colonel Kurtz, and you can find me at Colonel Kurtz 99 on all platforms. Yes, it is an Apocalypse Now reference. I'm not really a colonel.
I did see somebody in the chat earlier say who would name their child Colonel.
I told you, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad because I get it. It's not a word that we see in print a lot these days anymore. But yeah, it's a military rank. Although it would be a pretty name, Colonel, kind of like that.
It's not one I've ever heard of, but you know, people make up names all the time, so that's okay. How you doing today? You doing good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Good to be here again.
All right, we got a bunch of stuff to get into today, but before we get started, guys, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already, please and thank you. Remember to share the episode, the segments, everything out with everybody that you know. The more people that you share the show with, the faster this channel can grow. And let's be honest, we're getting very close to 400,000 subscribers, which is a huge deal. So thank you guys all so much for that. If you guys weren't subscribing, weren't watching the segments, weren't tuning in live, we would not be here. It really isn't possible without your guys' support. So thank you guys all so much for that. So what are we getting into today? Well, number one, I think being Hollywood itself is one of the many victims of the Epstein files, except it's a victim that nobody actually feels any sympathy for because Hollywood is full of evil people and a lot of different individuals are being caught up in the Epstein files. Today we are going to talk about a gentleman named Kelce Wasserman who runs one of the biggest talent agencies in all of Hollywood. He had emails come out with Ghislaine Maxwell back in well, the emails were from back in 2003, but he has since made an apology because of the latest data dump of document files. He did so on January 31st, but now a bunch of the talent that work for him are now quitting and calling for him to resign from the company that bears his own name. So we are going to get into that. We're going to look at some of the emails. It's interesting. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the battle over the cultural relevancy of Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. Now, it's got nothing to do with the Turning Point halftime show. It's more to look at how these shows are rated, and what I mean by rated is literally how they judge how people are watching the show. So you've got the Nielsen demographic, which, by the way, me and Olivia the other day, we actually got one of those surveys in the mail from Nielsen. It was like my Super Bowl. I was really excited to yeah, right?
Wow. That's like old time. I didn't know they were even still doing that.
They bribe you. They pay you to do it. They're like, we'll give you $15 to take this survey. I don't have one of those Nielsen boxes, and it wouldn't rate anything anyways because we don't watch traditional TV. But the point is, guys, is it's looking at the difference between old school metrics of Nielsen ratings versus the new age, which is stuff like Samba TV, and they paint very different pictures as to how this Super Bowl halftime show actually went for Bad Bunny. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about Wuthering Heights because as a former professor, Colonel Kurtz is going to talk about the dreaded updating for modern audiences.
The dreaded.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I'm actually I'm split on this. Part of me is really hopeful, and but we'll see. I don't know.
I wonder if Pop Culture Junkie is in the chat, if he has any updates or any inside baseball on what's going on with that movie, because it's got decent projections. So we'll talk about it. We're also going to talk about Quentin Aaron. If you don't know who that is, he was in the Sandra Bullock movie The Blind Side, which was a big deal back in 2013, and I don't even know how to explain this story. He has maybe a wife who is possibly being implicated, maybe, allegedly, in his accident that saw him fall down a set of stairs, and then he was in the hospital on life support, and a GoFundMe was started in which now his family and his maybe wife says that they're going back and forth about it. It's absolutely insane.
That was a great synopsis, though, of it you actually gave there. That was very clear.
That was like the best I could come up with. It's like the story's that crazy.
It's crazy. It's a crazy story.
So we're going to talk about that. And also, Colonel Kurtz wants to talk about how Jake Paul is actually a wholesome Chungus because of his fiance. Is it Judah Leardom?
Yeah, I think it's Judah. Have I been mispronouncing it wrong the whole time? But yeah, I was kind of Jake Paul neutral, to be honest with you, going into this, but he seems genuinely he seems genuinely moved by her
Okay.
gold medal win. So.
Well, we've got that. We've got a bunch of other stuff. If you're ready to go, we can get started. Are you ready, Kurtz?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, let's go for it then. All right, guys. As you guys know, the Epstein files have run rampant over all of American culture lately. Names are being leaked, names are coming out, and everybody is pointing fingers at the elites in Hollywood and all over our political landscape, looking at all the disturbing things that have been done over the last several decades. One of those names is a guy named Kelce Wasserman, and he is indicative, in my opinion, of the way in which the Epstein files are tearing at the fabric of what Hollywood is. So if you don't know who Kelce Wasserman is, he is an American sports and entertainment executive, and he's the founder and CEO of Wasserman, a global sports and marketing and talent agency that represents thousands of athletes and artists across sports and music. His role as he's also the chair of the Olympic Committee, which is literally going on right now. And what we are seeing, guys, are he had emails leaked with Ghislaine Maxwell from back in 2003. It looked like they were having what you would call an affair. He was married at that time. And now artists like Chappell Roan are coming out and are quitting his agency, and other artists from the brand are asking him to step down from his own business that bears his own name. And he reps brand like bands like Coldplay, Imagine Dragons, Lorde, Pharrell, bands you've heard of. These aren't nobodies. These are big name artists. And some of the agents within his own music group are actually looking to buy out the music branch of Wasserman because they want to, remove themselves from the clutches of all the bad publicity that's coming from his name being attached to the files. Again, like I said, he apologized on January 31st for his association with Maxwell, but let's look through a little bit of what this says. This was an article from the Hollywood Reporter that says Kelce Wasserman faces artist rebellion amid Epstein fallout. The position, and now this is from people in the agencies. Days after Kelce Wasserman was named in the Department of Justice documents related to the convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, the entertainment mogul is facing an internal schism at his namesake company. This is a quote. The position Kelce Wasserman has put his agents in is inexcusable, wrote Beth Cosentino, frontwoman of rock duo Best Coast, in an open letter on February 6, calling for the mogul to step down from the music and sports rep powerhouse he founded and has run since 2002. So he was already, again, one of the things that's a clear hallmark of everything that's going on here is Epstein's proximity to power because of his job as a his job in the finance sector. Let's just go ahead and say that. It says, we are demanding for Wasserman to remove himself and name himself and his name from the agency. The Lily Trifilio-led band Beach Bunny posted on February 8th, continuing to be represented by a company led by and named after Kelce Wasserman goes against our values and cannot continue. Then more people go on. This is hours before Chappell Roan posted that she was parting ways with the representation giant. Quote, no artist, agent, or employee should ever be expected to defend or overlook actions that conflict so deeply with our moral values, she said on a February 9th post. I refuse to passively stand by. Late on Monday, singer Chelsea Cutler added, in a time where many of us feel particularly angry, helpless, and exhausted by our country's climate, it simply feels incongruent with my values not to speak up and take action. That those missives and more were directed at the artist's own management firm may be a telling window into what's going on at Wasserman's Westwood offices now. The Mogul's company, which has a large A-list client roster of artists like Ed Sheeran, Coldplay, Imagine Dragons, Casey Musgraves, Lorde, Pharrell, has been rocked by the DOJ's rounds of Epstein document releases, which surfaced Wasserman's suggestive correspondence with Maxwell in 2003, 3 years before Epstein was first arrested in Florida on account of soliciting prostitution. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that the multiple artists are considering cutting ties with the management firm, which greatly expanded its footprint into the music representation industry 5 years ago with a major buy of Paradigm's North American live music unit, Best Coast Cosentino. One client that brought us over the deal wrote that her loyalties were with her agent, which is what it seems to be the fact with most of it, is that these people are loyal to the actual agent that represents them from, I guess that would be like the middleman in the company, whereas the guy, Wasserman sits atop the business and he has agents that work for him. So their loyalty are with the agents, not with the brand itself.
Well, that's definitely true. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw that in the Baldoni situation as well,
Mm.
where there was a break between his actual agent who left Stephanie Jones and the larger firm. I mean, to me, this seems. I guess you'll continue to discuss it here, finish it. I don't know, but it seems like some virtue signaling on the
Mm.
part of a lot of people who don't know. I mean, look, Ghislaine Maxwell. There were a lot of people evidently who didn't know that she was helping to traffic women to Jeffrey Epstein. And she did end up leaving Epstein and marrying a guy in the tech field, a younger guy with a kid, becoming a stepmom. My point is not to make her sound vindicated or rationalize her as an individual, but I'm just trying to say that she did pass in polite society. That it was very possible to have dated her, flirted with her, had sex with her, and to not know what she had been involved in with Epstein. So look, I mean, I was on here the other day talking about Bill Gates and
Yeah.
how it's so disgusting that he was probably trying to pass antibiotics to his wife unknowingly in her food to cover up the STI that he'd gotten from some Russian girls, as Epstein turns it. So I'm not trying to apologize for any of these guys, but to me, this is just one of the really tenuous ones, in my opinion. I don't know. You tell me what you think.
I don't know if it's virtue signaling as much as PR 101. Like they need to
Yeah.
like, I mean, I guess any situation in which you have to make a public statement to decry outrage at something could be construed as virtue signaling. But the fact of the matter is nobody can afford to be anywhere near these files right now. I pulled up some of the emails here so you can kind of get an idea of what they're talking about here. There is no mention that I could see of beef jerky or of any of the other stuff. It seems to be that these two had a relationship of sorts. And I don't know why people were emailing stuff back in the day rather than... I don't know. I guess texting existed in 2004.
It was actually, I didn't have a cell phone though until like 2000,
but
2002, 3. Yeah, I think things just probably habits die hard. So people were into emailing was still kind of cool back then. Instant messaging was sort of new. I don't know.
So
I don't know. I can't explain it.
This is what he said. This was from Casey Wasserman to Ghislaine Maxwell on Tuesday, the 1st of April, 2003. It says, "Where are you? I miss you. I will be in New York City for 4 days starting April 22nd. Can we book that massage now? Because email, and then you go down. We're going to go through all of them here.
Is that a massage? Like, okay, so are we talking, this is supposed to be evidence of a bad massage, or is this just...
Seems like it. So here's another one from 2 days later. And this is from Casey Wasserman, and it says... Now, the email address is blocked out here, but I'm assuming, again, it's to Maxwell. This was her response. He says, "Will you be in NYC when I'm there?" And she says, and this is her response here, all that rubbing. Are you sure you can take it? The thought, frankly, is leaving me a little breathless. There are a few spots that apparently drive a man wild. I suppose I could practice them on you, and you could let me know if they work or not. Just for the record, the cigar concept currently has pride of place in my bedroom." So just imagine this is weird old person flirting in 2004 is what we're looking at.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to think.
Proto-sexting.
Yeah, of course, Ghislaine, 2004 now, that was like almost 20 years ago. She was more of a young thing at that point. But
2003.
What I think is that this just reminds me how when you read sexting between anyone, unless it's you and your partner, it's just completely gross. It's kind of why like porn, it always seems a little weird too, is that other people's sex is just always kind of a little strange. Now here they were just talking about a consensual thing between the two of them, right?
Yes.
Like there's no reference in that to any other women. Gotcha. So he was just, I think it sounds like he just really had the hots for Ghislaine back then.
So he apologized later and said that what happened was he's apologized for being connected to it, but he had there's literally nothing else he could say. There's more red on the article here. It says efforts are afoot by some of his own agents to buy out the music side of his representation business to spin it off into an independent branded agency without the Wasserman name. It's unclear where those discussions now stand. Wasserman has counted Providence Equity Partners as a strategic investor since 2022, replacing earlier backers like Redbird and Madrone Capital. The company declined to comment for this article. For now, the company has pulled down a list of its website of the large roster of artists that it represents, perhaps due to criticism directed at those musicians on social media. Yeah, right now, if people don't want to go look at who they can critique about this, they would just go to that list and then start flooding those artists, Instagram pages or Twitter accounts and saying, what are you doing here? Why are you being represented by somebody that's, that's 6 degrees from a pedophile?
Right.
It says, due to the association with the 51-year-old CEO, major stars on the roster have been taking calls from CAA. These are all talent agencies who are looking to recruit talent away. Yeah, right now, if you're one of these other talent agencies, it is it's blood in the water.
You're like poaching. You're like, they're just ready to poach as they come running. Yeah.
Which is like the most cynical of takes when it comes to
but I mean, it's true. It's true. You're not wrong about what you're saying or about the, I guess, seeming PR necessity of people distancing themselves. But it is an unfair byproduct of this Epstein stuff. And I'm not sure, as someone who wanted to see the files, there is a part of me that wonders if more good people have been caught up in this net than quote unquote bad people, if you know what I mean. Because the guy, as you said, he was a billionaire. He was a major financier. Apparently he gave and also, well, it gave a lot of money to people, frankly. We see with Prince Andrew, probably made loans as well, but also made a point, Epstein, of connecting himself to all of these different fields. He was interested in science stuff at Harvard, for example, and then he's in the entertainment industry, as getting connections there, inviting people to premieres, hobnobbing, all across the board. So this guy is going to come in contact with a lot of people. To me, it's again about sifting, and same thing with Ghislaine, but it's about sifting through this and trying to find evidence of actual wrongdoing.
Absolutely. So one of the talent agents said, Chapel Roan is in play. Imagine Dragons are in play. Wasserman issued an apology on January 31st, shortly after the latest DOJ, release of documents. And he said, I am terribly sorry for having my association with Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year sentence for her role in conspiring to sex trafficking minors with Epstein. But Wasserman's international visibility as chairman of the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Committee, he has led the city's bid since 2014, has drawn increasing attention to his decades-old ties to Maxwell, as well as his presence on the flight logs with Bill Clinton and others to Africa in 2002. The DOJ's latest batch of files includes an FBI report detailing an interview with an onboard emergency physician for the former president. This doctor recalled that 4 young women in their early 20s had been on the flight. No one knew why they were there. Everyone else had a purpose, apparently, except for them. That was summarized in one of the agent's memos. The executive, who was the grandson of legendary Hollywood power broker Lou Wasserman and son of Lynn Wasserman, and the stockbroker Jack Myers, has built an empire in his own right through its eponymous company, his self-named company, which has snapped up marketing firms and boutique sports management shingles in a bid to increase its market share in the representation landscape. His biggest buy that gave his company the most exposure to the film and television side of Hollywood was its purchase of the production firm Brillstein Entertainment Partners in 2023, which brought in clients like Brad Pitt, Florence Pugh, Tiffany Haddish, Adam Sandler, and more. So again, more names that are 6 degrees away from Epstein, which now means all of these artists will have to answer for it.
He's everywhere. It turns out he was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, the purpose of the flight logs to be on the flight with Clinton is I guess the idea is that those women might have been there against their will. Otherwise, they were not children, they were adults. So what does it mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of thorny stuff to untangle there. I know some of the flights were actually legitimate flights as a part of some kind of an AIDS, the fight against AIDS.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to fundraise and stuff. I know at some point he was taking people, there were other actors mentioned across the pond for that too. And so again, it's very hard to untangle, and unfortunately, it would have been nice if the government could have actually prosecuted more people if it found evidence against people to prosecute, instead of just this sort of free-for-all where you don't really know what is truth and what's just mere coincidence.
I mean, look, I don't buy for a second that the U.S. federal government couldn't have prosecuted more people if they wanted to. Now, I understand that prosecutors, they don't take cases that they can't win. The U.S. government's prosecution rate is unbelievably high. But let's face it, most people understand that when there's that much money involved, when there's that many connections involved, and the incestuous nature of all of this stuff is that even if they had the evidence, a lot of times the desire to prosecute is burned off by your boss coming in and saying, look, that guy's connected to this guy, is connected to the mayor, is connected to to the governor, and stuff just gets pushed to the back burner and nobody ends up going to jail, which is why the public has so much outrage when it comes to all of this stuff. In his apology, he says, "I deeply regret my correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell, which took place over 2 decades ago, long before her horrific crimes came to light. I never had a personal or business relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. As is well documented, I went on a humanitarian trip as a part of a delegation with the Clinton Foundation in 2002 on the Epstein plane. I am terribly sorry for any association with either of them." It was really funny. There was a tweet that said, when you see philanthropist in somebody's bio, it's now like an immediate red flag.
That's funny. I guess that could be, actually.
Like it feels that way. What, like, do you think that a lot of what we're seeing right now is I read a really interesting post, and I wish I had it in front of me now, that was talking about the theory, like the purpose that the government has for releasing the documents in bursts. Now, one of them is to distract from any controversy that might come up that they want to false flag and push the story, the SEO, farther down by talking about something else. So every time the administration wants to move away from something that's going on with them, they will drop more documents. Another one is saying is that it's a slow burn to make more people just basically have to deal with these images, and it's and it degrades public trust, and it degrades our like will to fight seeing all of these things that are happening to children. So
yeah, it could be. It could also be, like, I just always go on the side of bureaucratic incompetence, and I just wonder, it takes time just to process all of this stuff. It takes time to redact things, and evidently after some of these files were dropped, then stuff was retroactively redacted, or they went back in and took some stuff out. Anyway, the point is, I would imagine that's what's going on behind the scenes, is just a kind of a bureaucratic race to get this stuff out as fast as possible without it seeming like it's some kind of a weird drip. So that's what I would imagine, but that's just me.
Do you think that so really there was another topic that we did not end up covering, which I may end up covering on Thursday, of Jeffrey Epstein's connection to Batman. He apparently had a deep affection for the character of Batman, which really does prove that representation doesn't matter, because he's nothing like Batman. He's actually the total opposite of Batman. So apparently you can love a character and still be a human piece of shit. But like, there are connections there to Elon Musk and to Jonah Nolan and dinners had with all of these people. And it just feels like he orbited so much of Hollywood that it feels like nobody will be left. At least nobody in the executive class and nobody in the agent class will be left undamaged.
Yeah, because once again, he wasn't just a rich guy or a rich pervert. He was also someone who was very interested, almost as a kind of a hobby, in seeing how many ponds he could dip his fingers in, to kind of make a gross analogy. But I mean that in the sense that he also fancied himself. I read that Vanity Fair interview with Epstein from years and years and years ago, before he was in any trouble. And it's clear that he thinks of himself as an intellectual and an eccentric. And I could very much see that he considers himself a Batman, in the sense that he's a very wealthy man who's playing outside the margins of what is societally condoned. And so I think that when you think about how he had his hands in all these different jars, so to speak, and considered himself an intellectual, absolutely. I think what we're going to find at the end of this is that he was basically plugged into everything, and it's going to be almost impossible to sift it, except in cases where he's writing emails to himself about Bill Gates trying to get antibiotics to slip in his wife's food.
The other thing that's weird here, and I've seen a couple of memes about it, is like half the time these emails, they're talking in code, like beef jerky, or he even references Batman in a code form in some of these articles as well. It says like the mouse found her Batman. But then the other half of them, it's like some dude who's like, it's like a rich guy being like, hey, thank you for letting me hunt human beings on your property. That's what it feels like. It's like they don't know, like, it's like, what am I supposed to believe with any of this stuff? That's the other thing. It feels like all of this is poisoning the well and making the amount of information so vast. You're just like, I give up. I don't fucking know.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the attitude at the end of the day.
All right, let's move on. So yesterday we talked on this channel about the halftime shows. We talked about both the Bad Bunny halftime show for the NFL, also the Turning Point USA halftime show with Kid Rock. And today, after having that discussion yesterday, I want to talk a little bit about the ratings, because the ratings for things, just like box office for movies, is one of the last real ways you can tell what public interest is without the media trying to kind of get their hands on it and start forming a narrative. And even then, they absolutely do that. And I found this really, really great article from That Park Place that is putting back to back the ideas of both the Nielsen rating system and Samba TV, which have very, very different ways of tracking how, ratings are actually formed and collated. So let's look at this here so you can get an idea of what it means. Did the ratings fall? Did they go up compared to Kendrick Lamar? And I guess the real question is, does it matter? Like, does it actually signal anything at all? So this article says Samba TV shows second year of viewership declining for Super Bowl halftime show as media touts record Bad Bunny viewership. The media narrative surrounding the Super Bowl halftime show has been immediate and sweeping, record audiences, historic reach, and another cultural milestone for the NFL's mid-game spectacle. Headlined by global music star Bad Bunny, early projections suggest that the halftime show's viewership may have reached more than 135 million viewers, placing it among or potentially at the top of the most watched halftime shows in Super Bowl history. But as with many modern rating debates, the deeper you dig the measurement systems behind those numbers, the more complicated the story becomes. Now, this is what they're talking about. National viewership projections, typically modeled using Nielsen data, attempt to estimate the total number of people who watched across all platforms. So that means traditional broadcast television networks, streaming platforms, mobile devices, out-of-home viewing. So that's like bars, restaurants, and places that might be playing it after the fact. And I actually just read this. One of the things I kept bringing up yesterday was how the NFL is clearly attempting to court a global audience. They don't want it to just be an American pastime anymore. They want it to be something that's, I guess, inviting to the whole world. And wrestling is doing the same thing. And one of the things that I learned from a video yesterday is apparently WWE is putting out like some type of broadcast ban for WrestleMania in Vegas this year at bars, to try and encourage people to buy tickets rather than to go watch it at a like, even if they get the license for it, they can't show it in their restaurants. So clearly they want global audiences for all of these things. So these are the other ways. So on top of out-of-home viewing, there's also co-viewing audiences. Under this framework, the Bad Bunny halftime show appears to have delivered massive reach, continuing the Super Bowl's trajectory as America's most dominant television event. However, third-party analytics from firms like Samba TV measures something very differently and shows a far less rosy picture. So again, this is one of those things where it's like, I feel like most people are going to have some type of confirmation bias. Whoever reaffirms your narrative is the one you're going to believe. If you really, really loved that halftime show and you think Bad Bunny's great and you think it was great for America, you're going to tout the Nielsen numbers and say it had the greatest reach ever and it was the greatest thing ever. But if you didn't like it, if you wanted to watch the Kid Rock halftime show and you think it was woke, you're going to tout the Samba TV ratings, which paint a different picture. It says, now this is Samba's method. Instead of projecting total viewers, Samba TV tracks households using automatic content recognition technology, measuring what is physically being watched on television screens in real time. And this is like the scariest thing ever. I was reading about this earlier. This is what automatic content recognition is. They use the same thing on YouTube when you get copyright claims and stuff like that. It says, if you've ever bought a smart TV during any of the Hollywood sales, there's likely to be an uninvited guest watching with you. The most popular smart TVs sold today use automatic content recognition, a type of ad surveillance technology that collects data on everything you view and sends it to a proprietary database to identify what you're watching and serve you highly targeted ads. The software is largely hidden from view and is complicated to opt out. Many customers aren't aware of ACR, that's the automatic content recognition, let alone that it's active on their shiny new TVs. Yeah, it's kind of like when you say something and Alexa suddenly knows exactly what you want, right? Like you're like, you know what? I could go for Taco Bell, and suddenly your phone has nothing but Taco Bell ads in front of you. So this is what Samba TV is saying. Super Bowl delivered another massive night of television, and the data tells an interesting story. Our latest viewership, let me make sure I have it up on here so people can read what we're going along with here. Our latest viewership insights reveal 48.6 million U.S. households tuned into the Super Bowl, representing a 13% decrease from last year's game. 26.5 million households watched Bad Bunny's halftime performance, down 39% from Kendrick Lamar's 2025 show. While viewership declined year over year, the Super Bowl remains one of TV's most powerful cultural moments, delivering tens of millions of engaged viewers in an increasingly fragmented media landscape. So they're saying that that's how many households watched, right? That's not the same thing as trying to estimate how many actual people watched the year. So this is back to the article. It says a 3-year house slide. When measured strictly by Samba TV's using the same criteria year over year, halftime show retention has declined across all of the last 3 Super Bowls. According to the measurements, the 2024 Super Bowl halftime show was Usher, had 30.1 million. 2025 with Kendrick Lamar was 28.8 million. 2026 with Bad Bunny was 26.5 million households. This represents a 3-year drop of roughly 3.6 million households, or about a 12% decline. So there's also what they call the retention gap, which says 48.6 million households watched the game overall, but only 26.5 million watched, remained for the halftime show. That implies that 22 million households tuned out during the halftime performance. So I guess my question here is like this. Samba measures in-home smart TV screens, and then streaming via connected television apps. It does not measure phones or tablets, laptops, out-of-home viewing, again, like, at a bar or a restaurant or anything like that, or group co-viewing environments. Nielsen model projections attempt to estimate total people watching, cross-platform reach, and public venue audiences. Does any of this matter? I guess is the question. Do you think, it's all a bunch of data, and it really does feel indicative of what the world is now, which is choose your cause and you can find some type of information that backs up what you believe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would not be surprised that there has been a decline of some kind. That's what I would tend to bet on, simply because, as we've talked about on here, the monoculture is dying. And look, the Super Bowl halftime is also part of that monoculture. So I do think that fewer and fewer people are engaged. Secondly, most people get excited about a halftime show that has a big wow factor. And I'm thinking about the time, for instance, that Lady Gaga jumped from high overhead, right, and landed on the field. And so when as successful as people like Kendrick Lamar are, or even Bad Bunny, to be honest with you, I know he's huge for a certain age demographic or whatever, but he's just, I don't think that there have been any acts the last few years that people have really been just super, super excited about the wow factor. And so I think that's part of what's being reflected here too. Maybe the political thing is involved as well. I'm not sure. What were the ratings? Do we know what the ratings or the success was of TPUSA show?
Well, I can give you the number. So here's the other numbers that I did not give, which was YouTube viewership for the Bad Bunny halftime show was about 54 million as of when I checked right before we went live. And Turning Point USA looks like it was about 25 million on YouTube. That's combined their channel with Charlie Kirk's channel, which they dual streamed, but also a lot of other people were streaming it. And I saw a post from the Popcast guys that pointed out the number one thing that you do if you're YouTubing is you don't allow cross streaming, because then you're diluting your numbers, right? So that number could actually be much higher with all of the people that were cross streaming the whole show as well. But I don't know. It's like you said, we no longer live in a monoculture. We don't live in a world anymore where there's that much genuine interest around one specific thing. And the things I saw people calling back to yesterday was Britney Spears commercials during the halftime show, which were represented, from back in the day, the Pepsi commercials, which were representative of, a culture in which we all kind of watch the same things and experience things together. Now that's just never going to be the case again.
Probably so. Until something comes along that does have that wow factor or that is sufficiently new. I do think that if you had an act come to the Super Bowl for halftime that truly had a gigantic wow factor, or people understood that something really special was planned,
Mm.
and it wasn't just people holding their breath to see if this person was going to do something politically incorrect. I think then maybe you would have more people tuning in.
Well, I think about this, like a Night of the Seven Kingdoms is like really popular right now amongst people that I know. But like, it's not Game of Thrones as we remember Game of Thrones in 2013.
Yeah, certainly not. Certainly
like,
not.
At a time,
it's not even House of Dragons.
Yeah, like it's not Game of Thrones when Game of Thrones was like one of those last things, along with like Breaking Bad, which became appointment television for a huge part of the population. And the reason I always bring up Game of Thrones is I wasn't even a fan of the show per se, but I had a roommate who loved it, and so we would watch it when it was on. But it was also because that was the first time he had it on HBO Go at that time. It was HBO Go. So it was, the early days of
Yeah, no, you
streaming.
ended up seeing it. That was the thing. That's the thing with monoculture is you end up seeing it even if you're not particularly interested. And I ended up watching. I never thought it. I always thought it was overrated. I never thought it was that impressive. There were some storylines that were really cool and production values were high, but I was never really that into it. But I ended up watching every season of it. So.
And the thing is, for the most part right now, like does the halftime controversy of the last 2 years, have they overshadowed the game? This year I do think it most people were like the game was boring, whatever. Last year the controversy was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and was that last year? Was that the year before, where they're like the NFL is rigged and they're going to make sure he wins the Super Bowl? They're going to make sure he wins the Super Bowl and he's going to propose on the field because football is fake. Right? That controversy was kind of in the same lane as Kendrick Lamar. And my pitch yesterday, oh, thank you. Somebody mentioned Lost. Lost was another one that was a huge cultural phenomenon at the time. But that was back in like 2006. But for football right now, the halftime show seems to be outstriping at least the general normie audience, right? But that's fine, right? The diehard football fans will come for the football, and the normies come for the commercials and the halftime show. That's been true for quite some time. But for Turning Point, I feel like, and I made this point yesterday, they need to get away from doing these things for a reactionary reason. They should announce their next halftime show before the next halftime show is even announced for football, right? And I would also say do this for other sporting events, right?
Sure.
I believe the World Cup is coming to the United States fairly soon. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. If they wanted to do events that don't necessarily counter signal those sporting events, but piggyback off of them, kind of in the way that other wrestling promotions will run events during WrestleMania weekend. It doesn't always have to be reactionary in the political way, because you can't draw new audiences that way, because the only people that are going to tune in are the ones who are so politically engaged that they know that that's going on.
Right. And I do think a lot of people are getting sick of it. All of this.
What do you mean?
Getting sick of having every aspect of our culture tainted by politics, whether it's woke culture and woke casting, or on the other hand, it's conservatives hyperventilating about the possibility of woke culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think some of us just look. I mean, 20 years ago, we accepted that there was going to be, to some degree, a left lean in the arts, and I'm not saying that that's something that we should just accept passively. I mean, conservatives need to get out there and keep doing this, and do it even more, making their own art. But it does get tiresome, this hyperventilating constantly about this is woke, this is woke, this is woke. So I wish both sides would kind of stand down a little.
All right. So you're going to have to fill everybody in on, because this was another aspect of the Super Bowl, right? It was the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and Travis Kelce's ex debacle, which kind of played out with an actual Super Bowl commercial from a company that looks like a scam to me.
Yeah, I didn't actually even think that it was a clever commercial. It was pretty annoying to my thinking. But basically what happened is that Travis Kelce's most recent ex, her name's Kayla, she was in a commercial that basically it was a joke, and the idea was if you're breaking up with an ex, or you're splitting and you don't want to have to deal with them, then hire these people to basically deal with them for you, and get the ex, and maybe the ex and the new girlfriend to leave you alone, right?
Okay.
And so Travis Kelce's ex Kayla was in this commercial, and so a lot of Swifties online were attacking her on the basis of this, saying, why can't she just leave them alone? Look, she's trying to extend her 15 minutes of fame, and she's going to an international audience, and she's shading him and all of that. And I just simply think that we need to remind everyone that Taylor Swift was the one who dragged Kayla originally in the Opalite song.
Mhm.
And Kayla has been pretty much off record about Travis Kelce and the whole situation. And Taylor Swift comes out with a song, as you know, weeks ago called Opalite, and just recently released a video about it as well. But the thesis of the song is basically this idea of that she and Travis were struggling separately, each of them in their previous relationships, with people who were basically duds, not right for them. And she shades Travis's ex. She makes reference to the fact that Travis couldn't figure out why he felt lonely, but it turns out that his ex was just in her phone all the time and was only interested in him as a PR prop. That's basically, to paraphrase, what is said in Taylor Swift's song. So Taylor Swift is the one who has a kind of a pathological obsession with, or compulsion with, shading people. She shaded all of her exes. She exposed Matty Healy for his drug relapse. She dissed Joe Alwyn for being such a downer and just dragging down their relationship with his depression. She shaded all kinds of people. She turned Scooter Braun into a cultural villain when there was absolutely no reason for it. You know, she and her people act like Scooter Braun came to her house, you know, with a mask on and robbed her. It was a completely above board business dealing that, by the way, she ended up becoming wealthy and powerful enough to have it overturned. She got her music back. It all works out. Great, you win. Stop it. That's my feeling about her.
Do you want to explain the racial undertones of the song? The funny thing about it is, upon Olivia loves Taylor Swift, right? So,
Okay.
I've heard the whole album, you know, multiple times. I think Opalite's the only song I actually like.
It is a catchy song.
I'm not gonna lie; it's the only one that
song.
actually I liked the song "Canceled" because it felt the most true to her nature, the nature that she tries to hide, you know, somewhat hide.
Yeah.
But I think Opalite might be the only one that I actually kind of liked.
Sure, and by the way, Taylor Swift is welcomed. It's a free country. She's welcome to diss her exes and to diss Travis's exes, and she's welcome to make $1 billion doing it. I mean, she's winning this game.
If I was him, though, I would be like, look, we're together now. Like, this is like focusing on this. It's mental. It's a mental load.
Brett, he's eating this shit up.
I mean, they're both likely. They're all bad people, though, right?
I think he's eating it up. I think he's living a fantasy right now. I would gander that he doesn't even know what the reality of Taylor Swift, good or bad, would be, because he's caught up in a fantasy of being with this celebrity of a lifetime, billionaire celebrity.
You said that there's racial undertones.
Oh, yes,
in the song?
Opalite. So in the song, which, by the way, that one of the major themes is her dissing Travis's ex, Kayla. In the song, which is about him getting away from his exes, there's a reference made to Travis being sleepless in the Onyx, but now it's Opalite skies. Basically, like, I was trapped in the Onyx, and then now it's like it's beautiful. And there's a whole debate online about the color of Opalite, but it's not opal, it's Opalite. It is a milky stone that, yes, can be made to look blue or can be made to look pink or other things, but the dichotomy here is pretty simple to me: onyx versus opalite. And look, you know that I'm the last person to enforce political correctness or to scream racism at all, but songwriters, they put a lot of thought into their songs on a metaphorical level. And Taylor Swift likes to go out there and talk about her whole songwriting process and how I put so much thought into every word and shades of meaning and all of that. And then tell me that this song that is shading his black ex and his history, by the way, I think I would read into it, of dating black women, that this onyx versus opalite reference is just, there's no double meaning there at all. Really? Really? And if you look here, yes, his track record is dating beautiful black women. And so what I said today in my Twitter post is, it's not that I think that Taylor is racist. What I think is that she has a great deal of insecurity over the fact that her man clearly has a preference that is not her type. And it's like, you look at this picture here and it's like, one of these things is not like the other. And I know people can change their types, but if I were a billionaire celebrity and this man telling me he's in love with me, and yet his track record is all of these women that are different type, I would have some insecurity about that. Maybe she shouldn't, but I would. And so I just have to ask myself, why is Taylor so invested in shading Travis Kelce's exes if there's not some kind of insecurity there underlying it?
Is it just that it would be even more of a red flag if she was continuously focusing on her own exes? He'd be like, "Look, we're together now. Like, why?"
Well, she does that too.
I'd say like that's also a huge red flag, right? If she's like, it's like you see those like skits where it's like the worst thing you can do on a first date is mention like an ex that because you're clearly not over them. And for her, she's kind of got a problem though because it's financially beneficial for her to do it. But also, you know, as a relationship, as a means of keeping your relationship healthy, it's probably not good to focus on these things all the time.
Well, I understand that it's good, she thinks, for her brand, and maybe it is, for her to diss her exes, but dissing Travis's ex, this is where I think it's kind of analytically interesting. Honestly, if I if I were Freud and she were on the couch, so to speak, I think it's very interesting to aggressively, and like again, she was blaming Kayla Nicole for the breakup of their relationship because in the song, all Kayla cares about is this guy as like a PR prop. That's basically what the song says. And it's like, damn, you know that millions of people are going to be seeing this, and it's very clear that you're talking about your man's ex and you're going to say that. Like, to me, there's something really kind of strangely aggressive and immature about Taylor Swift, and perhaps that's because she stopped maturing psychologically when she became famous, as people often do. I don't know.
Is that like a proven thing that like when you reach a certain level of fame early enough, it's kind of because they say the same thing about people who have been abused, right? If you've been abused, you psychologically stop maturing at the age you were when you were abused.
That sounds very probable. I don't actually know about research indicating that, but I will say this: whenever you hit an age where your ego is able to override other people and where you can basically more or less have whatever you want and you can dictate the terms, so to speak, to other people, it really is an impediment to personal growth. Like, meeting that resistance of other people and their wants and their needs, it's important. And so I just think, with someone like Taylor, and lots of stars, once people stop saying no to you, I mean, strangely enough, Gwyneth Paltrow said that once people stop saying no to you, then your ego is in danger.
This was somebody in the chat asked where's Mary. Mary is live on here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but actually
I am Mary now.
In honor of Mary, I found this article, and she would have loved this, by the way. Because Mary hates nothing more than musicians with lore. And this was an opinion piece from The Independent that says Taylor Swift's obsession with mythologizing makes for boring art. It says Swift's penchant for self-referentiality and meta-narratives makes her music seem impenetrable to casual listeners, and the artist herself overly insular. With the exception of a loose narrative about the lengths people will go to in their search for the one, the video for Opalite has very little to say. Instead, it feels like another vehicle for Swiftian world building, less an expression of artistic intent and more of a self-mythologizing sales technique. So she would put Taylor Swift in the same category as other bands, like Sleep Token. She hates Sleep Token because of lore.
Well, here's a thing sort of related to what you're getting at. People will say to me, why is it wrong for Taylor Swift to shade all these people in her music? There are other artists who do it, there are rappers who do it, and so forth. Okay, well, first of all, we don't tend to hold rappers in very high regard in society. Their music's popular, but like I didn't realize Taylor Swift was in the same category there of rappers with their feuds. And secondly, I can think of a lot of, I guess most of my favorite artists actually write about a lot of other things. They write about, fear of death and existential difficulties and struggles. And they write about romance in sort of a more often, I think, a deeper way than like a sixth grader who's keeping score of, oh, you were bringing me down that day. Or, oh, you tried to cop some pills from somebody I know. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break.
Do you think that it's possible that I don't know like the other artists you're referencing, but if those other artists have say been married, had kids, gotten divorced, gone through those types of things in their life, it's become so much that they also broaden their worldview to talk about other things as well, because there was a time when they were fulfilled in a relationship and married, so there was other things they wanted to explore and talk about. And perhaps for her, because she hasn't been married yet, she's never felt that sort of fulfilled, she hasn't been fulfilled enough to want to explore other things? Or is it simply a casualty of capitalism and knowing what sells?
Well, I think it's a developmental issue in her case, because so much of, I think so much of building her empire has been having to more or less stay in line with a teen girl mindset, or maybe a very young woman mindset. And I think that, along with maybe some relationships that for whatever reason didn't work out. I mean, the Joe Alwyn relationship, they worked together for years, and that's long enough to go to some depths with someone emotionally. But I think for whatever reason, Taylor Swift is just, I do think that she is developmentally in every way, but her music is very behind, and her music is it's very juvenile too. So I mean, it's like kind of like I know Paris Hilton said in an interview one time, when everyone looks at you like you're supposed to stay 18 forever, it really encourages you to try to keep yourself within that frame, right?
For the good of other people, or for for themselves?
Well, for yourself, because that's what you're making all the money doing, right?
Yeah.
Speaking in that little voice and everything.
So it's a reaction to market forces, which is an even more depressing way of thinking of.
Well, on the other hand, she's a billionaire. She seems like she's madly in love. She's probably going to have Taylor's probably going to have a kid or two and love it. And so if so it's like, I'm not going to cry. Don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm not going to be crying for Taylor Swift.
What was that Madonna who sang that song
that
for
was
the
Evita.
The Evita soundtrack? Long time ago.
I have to run away for 1 minute. I'll be right back. Sorry.
All right. While we do that, guys, let's go ahead and do some cute of the day, because I've got actually a couple here that I want to go through, because we have fallen behind on cute of the day. Also, I want you guys to go ahead and submit your pets for cute of the day. I'm also going to be putting up another request for you guys while we were on, once the show is over, I'll go and put up another picture of either Toast or Mocha or Chloe, and I will show you guys where you can send more of your pets. But if you want to send them before then, hashtag PCC Pets, tag me in there on X at Brett Dasovic. This one here is from Jordan Lay. It says, this is Princess Annie. She looks like a great white shark, but she's a gentle giant. That is a very cute puppy.
Cute. She's very cute.
Well, that one, she looks like you woke her up and she's kind of annoyed that you woke her up, which I can understand. Let's do one more here. This one's from Cookie Dom. It says, here's a neighborhood cat. I don't know who it belongs to. He seems friendly, but Frida wasn't having it. Oh, I mean, that's, yeah. I mean,
I have a cat right here. I should grab her. I'll have her for the next episode.
Perfect.
I'll have the cat ready.
Cookie Don, I don't remember. Is Frida the one on the right or the one on the left? I vaguely remember it being the one on the right. If so, she definitely does not look happy with the neighborhood cat. So we've actually, people know the lore of the neighborhood cats in our town where we live. There's a whole abundance of them that walk around, and several that live at City Hall. And right now they have to be checked in on regularly, because there's a lady who's basically the neighborhood cat whisperer, and she builds shelters for them in the winter to make sure that they're okay and that they get their food.
I love that.
I know.
I love that. That's great.
All right, so guys, we are going to be seeing the release of Wuthering Heights coming up soon. It looks like it's projected to open to about 40 to 60 million dollars, which is a very good haul, actually. And Kurtz has some fears. You believe, like so many others believe when it comes to new movies that are based on other properties, that what we're going to see is they are going to update this film for modern audiences.
Yeah, I actually, so that's right. I mean, I do have a fear about that. I know that Emerald Fennell, the writer and the director, who also, by the way, wrote and directed A Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, neither of which I really liked. And so that's part of my anxiety too. I know that those were both critically acclaimed films, and I'm not saying that they were boring, but I thought both of them were kind of problematic thematically and didn't really hit the mark even to me as drama.
What do you mean by problematic?
Well, okay, so let me take A Promising Young Woman, I thought had a real strong Me Too message that kind of bothered me. I don't remember now the movie well enough to explain, but I remember that was my feeling. I went to see it in the theater, and I was put off by it thematically. And I also thought that as a story, at times it just kind of lagged. It's just a personal preference. Saltburn, I thought that there were efforts that she made to be so kind of politically correct about stuff, like the guy who had to have menstrual blood all over his face. Like,
wait,
there were
is that
things
the one where the guy put his dick in the dirt?
Well, that might have happened too. I'm thinking about the scene where he gets menstrual blood all over his
Okay,
face.
continue. Continue.
But like, I don't know. I just thought, to be honest with you, I just thought both of them were kind of trying too hard to be weird and edgy, to be honest with you. So going then into Wuthering Heights, I was an English prof for a while, and actually my dissertation was partly on 19th century, early 19th century and later 19th century literature. So I read the Brontes. I personally prefer Jane Eyre over Wuthering Heights. So if you want to read a Bronte novel, try Jane Eyre first. But Emerald Fennell has said that this is her version of Wuthering Heights. In fact, that's why she's putting it in quotation marks. So you can see, like, on all the promotional stuff, it's in quotation marks. She says that it's not Wuthering Heights as it was actually written, but it's as she wanted it to be when she was a younger woman, kind of her romanticized version of Wuthering Heights.
So what are the core differences between the original book and what she wanted?
Well, so this is where it's interesting to read the way that the reviews of this are diverging. I've read some reviews that have said that this is a more sexually explicit and in that way tries to be more of a satisfying story, because in the actual Wuthering Heights, for pretty much the whole thing, the two lovers are kept apart for various reasons. And so you actually don't. And the whole thing actually is about a kind of an unrequited love that can't be satisfied. And so it drives people crazy, right? Apparently in this one, there is the satisfaction of seeing these two, I guess, get it on a lot or whatever, right? But so I'm seeing some people saying that that's actually really great, that's really satisfying, and that this is what modern audiences want to see, which could be really cool. On the other hand, I'm also reading some reviews saying that in a way that attempt also sort of takes the charge out of it and makes it sort of another more kind of ordinary modern love story. So I guess
it feels like everything today is over sexualized when it comes to, like, I was just reading an article the other day. It was like Nicole Kidman signs on for another A24 erotic thriller. At this point, that's all she does.
So look, I'm going to surprise you here and defend Nicole Kidman briefly about Baby Girl, simply because I've watched that movie, and I will say this: I think a lot of people, and look, it's the studio's fault for promoting it wrong. A lot of people misunderstood that movie. When you watch it, it's really not meant to be this like hot, erotic softcore porn thing that it was advertised as. It's actually about the difficulty of enjoying a kind of a wild sexuality in a long-term safe marital relationship. So it's actually, I thought that movie would have been much more at home as like an art house feature or something that like a college gender professor would teach in a gender class or something. So I will say that to defend Nicole Kidman. But to your point, I think that people today have just maybe it's because of technology and maybe even pornography, people have really lost the sense of eroticism as bound up with not always seeing everything, or of something that doesn't happen, or unrequited desire, or of, I think that modern day people call it edging now, but there's such a thing as psychological edging. And I think that I hope that that's what we get in this Wuthering Heights, because I'm afraid maybe it's just going to be kind of like, okay, they're going to get it on a lot. I hope not, but they're going to get it on a lot, but it's not going to have that charge that the novel did. We'll see.
It feels like that type of restraint is a product of a bygone era. Like now, I've tried to like put this into words the best I can describe when it comes to stuff that I like, where it feels like everything, it's been a product of our reality since the 2000s. Our attention spans have gotten shorter. Entertainment has, for the most part, gotten more in your face. Very little in the way of reward is given to subtlety or deftness. And I always mention it in regards to wrestling, which is like pro wrestling back in the day, when, before the era we're in now, where a lot of these guys are smaller, they work less because they don't do house shows. So they can, when they're on TV, they can jump and try the craziest stuff. Injury rates have skyrocketed because they try to do the craziest shit all the time rather than understanding what ring psychology is, which was the idea of simulating a real fight, which didn't always necessarily look visually stunning, but it understood the psyche that a human being, the psychology of a human being much better, right? Now that is gone. Like the idea of that type of deftness when it comes to entertainment, and I'm just using one medium that makes
No,
sense
no, but
to
it
me,
makes,
right?
but it works. It works across. I mean, if we're talking about that, or we're talking about eroticism, it works, and I do. We'll see. But again,
So,
she can be a subtle director when she wants to be. So maybe I'm misjudging her here.
but back in the day, the idea would have been the desire for longing with another person would have mattered, and the desire to actually come together at the end of the movie would be something. Instead, it has to be visually upfront and over the top right from the beginning. Or that's what it feels like.
If it turns out to be that way, yes, that's right. You know, the great French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan once said, he was an expert in desire, the psychology of desire, and he once said that we do not actually desire people or things, we desire to desire. And so I think that art, particularly erotic art, that really does a good job of evoking that. Or it's like when you go to a scary movie, oftentimes what's scariest is when something is not fully revealed, it's suggested, right? Or you're anticipating it, right?
That was yeah, like not every, like Mary would say the same thing about sex scenes in movies. It's like you do not like if you have told the story effectively, it doesn't even need to be seen, because what was important was the build up to it. And horror movies in a lot of ways have gone down that same path, where before it was about the tension and building tension, which leads to something violent happening. Sometimes they show it, sometimes they don't. But think about the start of, it's so funny because somebody's like, Kurt, shut him up. We went from Heathcliff to Hulk Hogan.
I will not. No, it's fine with me.
Think of the beginning of the very first Scream movie with Drew Barrymore and the way they build the tension around her answering the phone, hanging up the phone.
Yeah. That's a great scene.
As the popcorn is steaming in the fire on the stove is going, right? That builds to a scene where you eventually see her disemboweled hanging from a tree, and that was an entire build of tension and fear and scariness that built into that moment, rather than just going straight into it. And that's what it feels like in the sense of eroticism in movies. They've kind of gotten away from the idea of building to want instead of just building to show.
Absolutely. So I hope that I'm surprised. Again, I've seen mixed reviews. A number of reviews saying it's going to be a huge success and that it's doing everything that we're hoping it does. So I don't know. I've seen a sort of a split audience among the reviewers. So we will see. But I do think that it would be a shame if this movie based on this book, which is all about unrequited desire, loses that. But we'll see.
Is there anything that seemed like a red flag? Like, did the trailers seem like red flags to you?
No, I actually thought the trailer looked really cool. I have no problem with some of the anachronisms. If there's certain costumes that people are wearing that are more impressionistic than and not what people would actually wear back then, I'm fine with that. I'm fine, and I'm fine with. I mean, look, it's a long, dense, complicated book. I'm fine with them changing a lot of it, but it just depends on what they change it to be. I will say, this is just for me personally. I can't figure out why. I guess I'm the only person who feels this way, but I feel a little weird, not bad, but just weird about the chemistry between Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. Those are not two that I would have paired together, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I don't know, and that's why I'm saying I'm the only one that I guess it's a little weird for. I just would have, maybe it's the fact that she is actually older than him, and even though she looks every bit as hot as him, it's really Heathcliff and Kathy are supposed to be basically like equals, and to me it's a little bit, I don't know, it's just a little odd. I almost think of her as being like almost a mother figure for him. But maybe I'll watch this and it won't feel that way.
But that seems to be the dynamic that Hollywood wants now, is older women with younger men.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I mean, bringing back Nicole Kidman, actually, the idea of that pairing, which again had a point when you watch the movie, but I don't know. It's again, I'm not gonna complain about it too much and say, oh, it should have been a younger woman. But I did feel, to me, something just feels a little off in the dynamic. I would have cast, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who I would cast. Also, Kathy is a very, aesthetically speaking, the blonde thing kind of bothers me, because Kathy is supposed to represent in many ways darkness. There's even references made to her wild dark hair in the novel. And again, Margot Robbie she's just so Barbie in my mind. Maybe it's the iconoclastic Barbie thing that she's taken on now, and that's why I can't get past it.
So yeah, so the idea would be that if it's supposed to represent darkness, and the color of her hair is a central piece to the character, or at least how the character is described, that
Right.
should be something that people hold steady beyond just criticizing when you race swap a character. Getting the other details right also matters because it's supposed to
Right.
evoke what the author was trying to evoke. Or if you want to bring up Snape for the upcoming Harry Potter TV series, who they race swapped. And
Does he look really race swapping?
Because they race swapped him. Is Margot Robbie a producer on this movie? I believe she's a producer on this movie.
I think now she produces or helps to produce
Yes.
everything that she does.
It's very possible that this movie doesn't get greenlit without her being attached to it.
Right. And again, that's fine. I'm not going to be like protesting her like I protested Blake at that movie. But but I just, those are the little things that I kind of think, we'll see how this is. But on the other hand, if it's a great movie, if it's a great love story, I'm not going to care if it's faithful or not. It either evokes that in people or it doesn't. It either works or it doesn't. Titanic is a movie that people love to diss and laugh at and make fun of. But every time I watch that movie, I against my will, I get caught up in that silly love story between her and Jack. I just can't help it. So we will see if this does that to me.
Well, that's what good movies do, right? Like
Right.
When a movie is done well, when it emotionally connects with you, the plot holes don't matter as much.
Right.
Or or even the incongruencies of the story don't matter as much. Where you look back and you're like, she's just cheating on her husband. She's kind of a bad person.
Right.
And then she threw away
mistakes.
generational wealth, which is like the most she wasn't a boomer. She would have been like the silent generation, but she's very boomer coded by taking, generational wealth and telling her kids to fuck off by throwing it into the water.
I think the thing with this is how Rose should have handled it. Okay, she should have had a serious adult conversation with Cal once she realized with Billy, what's his name? Billy Zane.
Yep.
She should have had like a serious conversation with him and been like, I'm sorry, I just can't help it. I've fallen in love with this poor guy, so we're over with. That would be an honorable way. But to do it, meanwhile, she's like sneaking around and having sex all over the ship and stuff like that. I mean, that would drive me nuts too. I'm not saying he was right to slap her because he wasn't, but that would drive me kind of crazy if I were Billy Zane, if that were that character, Cal.
But in the real world, that's the thing though. Like the real world isn't the movies, right? The real world version, the mature person goes and sits down and has a conversation with him, but then you don't have it in a movie because it's not interesting.
That's right. Yes,
to do
that's
that.
right.
Unless the point is that she has that conversation, then all of a sudden the ship hits the iceberg and it actually interrupts the conversation that they're having.
That way.
Also, he's fantastic at playing just a snobby elite.
He is.
He had the face for it. We have a 20 here from Corey Anderson. Says, ain't nothing wrong with older ladies. They don't BS you and tell you what they like. We only have a finite amount of time in this world, and I don't want to waste my time trying to read a woman's mind.
Hear, hear.
I imagine that it just feels like right now the only erotic thrillers that are getting greenlit are the ones that involve older women and younger men. That seems to be what Hollywood is pushing these days.
We just don't get many of those stories anyway at all. I was thinking about how, there was a golden period in Hollywood for some of these types of movies when Love Story was so successful. I don't know if you've ever seen Ally McGraw, and it's not that great a movie, honestly, but Ally McGraw and, oh God, what was the guy in it? Really famous, was married to Farrah Fawcett for a while. Anyway, Ryan O'Neal.
Okay.
Ryan O'Neal, Ally McGraw, Love Story. Anyway, the point is, that was a big gamble that Richard Evans at Paramount made, and along with The Godfather, which worked out really well. But that was a big gamble that he made, and it ended up being massively successful and spawning these like imitations, and it was kind of a golden age for romance movies. But I don't feel like we really have that much anymore. It is pretty rare to see a romance or erotic movie.
The last great romantic film that I saw was the highly underrated Girl Next Door with Emile Hirsch and Alicia Cuthbert, and that was all the way back in 2004.
I've heard that's good. I've heard it's good.
I love that
I haven't
movie.
seen it, but I have heard it's good. Emile Hirsch, his career just was never the same after he strangled that executive. It wasn't.
I mean, that sounds horrible. That's literally what happened, though. Like, I always thought he was trying to go the same route as like a not an Ethan Hawke, but a Josh Hartnett.
He was in some big
Josh
stuff
Hartnett.
for a while. He was in that Alpha Dog movie, which is really underrated, that true crime movie. He was in the Harvey Milk movie. And then he did some other things, not to mention the Into the Wild movie. But he's
that's
like,
the
his
only
career
movie, that's
died.
like the only big, like, outside of some very basic ones that, like, I read the book before I saw the movie, and so I could be the pretentious person who's like, the book was so much better.
Well, the movie's just almost never as good as the book. So that's why my order with these things is always, if I can, to try to see the movie first and then read the book, because then the book will go in and fill in all kinds of cool stuff. But if you read the book 9 times out of 10, you are going to be disappointed in the movie unless the movie did something really special, which maybe Wuthering Heights.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, we got a 20 here from Corey Anderson. Says, speaking of rom-coms, The Notebook is a movie I refuse to see. Sorry,
See, I don't like The Notebook.
Is a love story about a cheating woman, which is the most unromantic thing ever. Why do women think that this is a great love story? It's crap.
All right, so I'm going to say 2 things here to agree and disagree. First of all, I have tried to watch The Notebook twice, and I just think that it is a pretty boring love story. I will say, though, that my favorite romance movie of all time, it does center around cheating, adultery. So my favorite romance movie is The Bridges of Madison County. By the way, it's 2 older people, Clint Eastwood, above 45, Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep. And it is a story about a housewife who commits adultery with a traveling National Geographic photographer in the 1960s. Doesn't that get you going?
That's slut. All right.
It is a good movie.
Guys, we're going to move on. We've got more stuff to get into. We are going to get into the absolute weirdest story that I have seen in ages. Thank you, Colonel Kurtz, for sending this to me. This is about actor Quentin Aaron. He was in the movie The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock. He is apparently, and I say apparently because nobody seems to know for sure, married to a woman named Margarita. That's her actual name. And he suffered a catastrophic fall down the stairs in January, which left him in a coma. And then Margarita, who is claiming to be his wife, started a GoFundMe that raised $48,000. Now his family doesn't trust her and thinks she is going to try and steal all of the money. And the police have since assigned investigators, calling the incident of him climbing up the stairs and falling suspicious. And the family doesn't believe that she is who she says she is, and they kicked her out of the hospital room. This story is bonkers. I don't know where you find this stuff.
It is bonkers. I was telling you, it kind of reminds me, you see these stories a lot, like in the Daily Mail, of an aging, often it's an aging, famous guy, rock star, like in Phil Collins' case, or in this case, it could be a lesser known actor, but someone who's had some success and some money. And then there's this woman, kind of shady woman, who attaches herself to him. He doesn't see it. He falls for her. They get married. And then she stared doing all this shady stuff.
She's older than him, though. She's 2 years older than him.
Oh, it's an older in this case?
Yeah.
Well, so I was thinking about like Phil Collins, you know, he dumped the mother of his child, Lily's mom, and for an 18-year-old Scandinavian woman. And basically she caused him a bunch of misery for the next like 30 years or whatever, ended up getting him kicked out of his own home, I believe, so she could move in her younger lover with her. I mean, it was crazy. And then he had to get her evicted. So I don't know, but it seems like you see a lot of these situations where there's a rift between the family and the wife, right? So the family is accusing her basically of maybe being complicit in his injury.
Yeah. So it says, following his fall, a woman believed to be his wife set up a GoFundMe to cover any medical costs. The woman, named Margarita, age 50, it says right there, helped the family raise $48,000 through the GoFundMe, but now the actor's alleged wife is feuding with his family. As Quentin continues to recover, his family is growing increasingly concerned about the red flags between him and his alleged wife. A source told the outlet that the family is nervous about Margarita getting her hands on the money raised, but Margarita denies that she was after it. The rumors about the alleged feud between Margarita and the Quentin's family come after she was banned from visiting the actor at his hospital bed. Police are currently investigating the circumstances of Quentin's fall, which happened when he was walking up a flight of stairs in his Atlanta apartment and suddenly lost control of his legs. We have reviewed the incident, said a public information officer. They told that to the Daily Mail. It is currently classified as suspicious activity and has been assigned to a detective for further investigation. As this is an active investigation, we are unable to provide any additional information at this time. As the police investigate the case, Quentin's family allegedly has been actively pushing Margarita away from the actor. I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with this, she told us. So this is the biggest red flag of all, is that she gave an interview to Us Weekly. Quentin and I pray a lot and believe in God and believe in a higher power. I can feel his presence telling me this will work itself out. Sources say that Margarita tried to isolate the actor from his relatives, so she's like a cult leader here. But she denied those accusations. Quote, since the health crisis of our beloved family member Quentin, we have raised some suspicions about the legitimacy of Quentin and Margarita's marriage to each other, as well as her legitimacy as a registered nurse. Hospital staff even, this is where she goes on. She says, hospital staff even told me that they were limiting visitation. So she's countering what they were saying and saying that the hospital was the ones that was limiting people's ability to see him and not necessarily the family. They were only giving everyone 5 minutes once a day to be with him. Margarita said that while she and the actor are not legally married, they are spiritually married.
So wait, does she have no standing basically?
No, she would have no stand. That's why I'm saying, I put wife in quotes because like if she was his wife, she wouldn't be able to be banished from the bedside by his immediate family because she would have been next of kin.
Right.
She said, we are tied as well. I mean, she just sounds like a grifter. We are tied as one, she said. Instead of us fighting over him, let's fight for his life and what is right. Quentin's family said they found alarming details regarding Margarita's past. Since the health crisis, I read that quote before, we as a family believe Margarita isn't who she's claimed she is to us. This has caused us to want to investigate her further. The actor is reportedly improving and has begun making eye movements in response to his family's voice. When he's fully recovered, Margarita told the Daily Mail that the family's drama is really going to hurt him. Quote, Quentin's always wanted to find that one, and I was that one because everything that he needed help with, everything that the family wouldn't do for him, I did for him. The sad part about this is that the first time I've ever let his family come in as close with his medical because he's always said, please protect me. He's always had that fear, and he would just ask them about certain medications or certain family histories. And now that his family has taken over and has basically pushed me out, I'm not able to support Quentin. I'm not able to help support Quentin now. They basically took his main one support system away when he needed them. It's like, I would never want to be a celebrity of any level because I would never want this shit to happen to me.
I think also it depends on how sophisticated your bullshit detector is as well. There are a lot of guys who manage in Hollywood who manage to date and marry and be happy, and even to date random people. You know, like Matt Damon, he met his wife. She was a bartender
right?
in Miami. It was not the luckiest bartendress ever, I guess.
It's like the golden ticket of bar. Like
it's like a Hollywood movie.
Every woman is like, I can't do it anymore. The men call me toots. They ask for refills in the rudest way possible, but maybe Matt Damon walks in next week.
Exactly. You know, she had a child too that he happily took on. That's, you know, I always try to say this in response to the manosphere, some of the BS manosphere posts out there, is that people who they fall in love with and who they marry, it's a complex blend of hormones, fantasy, psychological cues, and it's really to whittle it down to a formula, or even to the hottest person, you know, that you find. That's often not it. Most people end up marrying a person who was not the hottest person they ever dated. So there's a lot going on with it. But I think about the Matt Damon. She was a bartender, and she had a kid already and was divorced, and she got picked up for a Cinderella life.
So she goes on. She says she denies that the family confronted her. She says, if his family confronted me, I'd like to know which one. No one, not one of his family members confronted me in the hospital. And if they did, they were an invisible ghost with a sheet because none of them showed up. She told us. It says our insider scoffed at her response, saying she knows exactly which family member challenged her. The source claimed Margarita allegedly denied the allegations before later admitting to to the staff that she was spiritually married to the actor and not legally wed. And then she addressed these concerns, says, "That's not true at all. I didn't admit that to the staff, but we are spiritually married. We are tied as one. I used to literally beg his family to come see him or even FaceTime him in the hospital. He used to say, 'No one loves me. They love me for my name and what I can bring them.'" She does admit she is this is the best part. Margarita does admit she is married legally to another man. "I am separated from my ex, and we are both working on this process to make sure a divorce gets finalized so we both can move on with our lives." She explained, I have watched Quentin in the hospital for 7 days. I prayed. I watched this man go through trials and tribulations. She wants the family to put down their swords. Instead of us fighting over him, let's fight for his life and what is right." Just couldn't be me.
Oh,
dude.
man. Sometimes it makes, I was going to say, sometimes I read things that make me feel really good especially good about my life.
Well, I mean, yeah, like you need these types of stories as perspective. As like, no matter how bad it is, it could be worse. You could be this actor from this movie from 2013 and that's, I guess the real question goes back to whether something bad actually did happen. I mean, obviously suspicious enough that they've assigned someone in law enforcement to investigate what is going on. But who knows? It says, Aaron's brother Jared told TMZ that he believes Margarita was assisting in making crucial and life-saving medical decisions. The outlet reported Margarita holds no power of attorney and has never made medical decisions on Aaron's behalf. Last month, the family confirmed that Aaron had been put on life support at an Atlanta hospital after collapsing at home. They later shared that he had suffered a spinal stroke. "We acknowledge that you have what you have heard about Quentin Aaron's condition. We appreciate the overwhelming love and support and prayers the Quentin family has received over the last several days from his fans and public." It's a crazy story, to say the least. Just never let this be me.
It's crazy. To me, one of the biggest horror stories of this nature was what happened to Phil Collins. You know, like,
do you want to give people more details on that?
Yeah, just
because
it's so crazy. Okay, so Phil Collins, in the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, he divorces his wife, longtime wife, Lily Collins' mom, by the way, which, people fall out of love, they meet someone else, whatever. But he divorces her for, I believe it was a 19-year-old professional woman in Sweden. And this woman ended up taking him, and he was, several decades older than her. She ended up taking him on a wild ride, to say the least. I'm sure there were a lot of great times and hot nights, but in the end, she ended up tossing him out of her house, or one of their homes, because she wanted to move a 20-something-year-old toy boy in. He was an escort, a former escort that she had started cheating on Phil with, because Phil had gotten old and decrepit and was having all these health problems. So basically, he's tossed out more or less, or not allowed back in. She sets up home and proceeds to try to divorce him and take a bunch of money from him. Well, after this happens, she comes to her senses, so to speak, and goes back to Phil. And Phil takes her back and says, "Oh, we just had kind of a rough time, but we lost the plot for a little while.
How
but
old
now
is he
things
at that point?
back and better than ever." I don't know. I think I'm probably losing the sequence of some events too. It might have been the second time she came back that she got the boy toy and kicked him out. But anyway, the point is, she kept basically having all these affairs with younger men and sort of tossing Phil out. But then, she would take him back, and then Phil would be like, "Oh, we're in love again," or whatever. But I think the last that I had read, they finalized their divorce. She was claiming that she was out of money and needed more alimony from him. And her boy toy that she ended up marrying had split from her and was demanding alimony from her.
Wait, so if I remember correctly, if she marries somebody else, she can no longer
She married
get
the
alimony.
escort. Well, maybe it's not alimony. Maybe she was trying to, in some way, argue for something more in the divorce settlement, because the timelines overlap a lot with this, because she was moving the boy toy in at the same time she was trying to divorce Phil, and maybe that's when she was asking for more money. And then she marries the former escort boy toy. He gets tired of her because she's like old and she's crazy looking with plastic surgery. If you look up Phil Collins' wife, plastic surgery before and after, it's insane. She looks like a monster now. So boy toy left her and now is suing her, I think, for alimony, because she got him accustomed to a totally different lifestyle with Phil Collins' money, right? So it's just basically a bunch of horrible people.
Old Fox in the chat says Phil was gone off that Blue Chew. Yes, he was. Yes,
I
he
have to get
was.
this lady's before and after. You keep going. I'm gonna look up her before and after here. Speaking of plastic surgery,
here's the thing. Like these types of stories, like when you reach a certain level of fame in Hollywood, like he wasn't the biggest actor. Like people in the chat were like, "Who the f is Quentin Aaron?" He was in one really big movie, The Blind Side, which I think it won an Oscar or something like that. I don't remember, but you know, getting to act alongside Sandra Bullock is a big deal, right? So getting to do that, it automatically raises your profile, but that doesn't last forever if you don't keep working. And a lot of times they end up having family members that rely on them, and they
can lose your money very fast, even if you're a really wealthy person. But in his case, like, I don't know that he ever really had that much.
Yeah. So did you find that photo?
I'm still looking. That's sorry.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's hold off on that. Let's move on. I want you to tell everybody about what it is that is currently making Jake Paul such a wholesome Chungus.
Yeah, Jake Paul, you know, I never had feelings about him one way or the other. That was a cool match, I guess, between him and Mike Tyson. Whether it was rigged or not, I don't know. I'm not smart enough on those things to know. But yeah, I didn't follow him very much. But I saw a year ago that he had fallen in love with this Dutch speed skater, world speed skating champion named Judah. I do think it's Judah Leerdam. And she was even on his reality show, the reality show that he did with his brother and with his wife, Nina Agdal. And so anyway, I thought, well, that's cool. And one of the things I started following her on Instagram. And one of the things that's really, I think that's cool about their relationship is he always, at least outwardly, he always seems super supportive. And he seems to be really impressed with her work ethic. He said that a lot, her work ethic, and that he says that she's a harder worker than he is in his training, in his boxing training.
And anything is more wholesome than whatever that was between Nina Agdal and
Dylan Dennis. Oh, that was terrible. Yes, I used to cover that. Ariadna Jacob and I covered that, and that's a whole other thing, but that was disgusting what he did to Nina. I know some people will say, well, Nina wasn't honest about her past or whatever. I don't know, but it was just disgusting what he did. So anyway, though, yeah, it seems like Jake Paul has this really wholesome, as you put it, relationship. And what I love is it's not only a relationship with her parents, but it's with her parents as well. When he proposed to her, he flew the parents in so that right after she accepted his proposal, she could immediately then turn to them and hug them and share this with them. And there have been so many pictures coming out of the Winter Games of him with the parents and even celebrating here.
That is a very important part of a relationship. Like getting along with your in-laws is very, very essential, especially if somebody is close to their family. It's not to say that it can't work, but it's an immediate hurdle that would have to be jumped if you didn't get along. Like one of the things that me and Olivia have spoken about is like we both got so lucky to get along as well as we do with our, her with my family and me with her family. Like that is an absolute life hack when it comes to building a life together. So for him to be able to do that, like there's the photo of him literally crying.
Yeah. So she not only won a gold, but she set a new world record. And let me tell you why this is also significant is she's been getting some shit for the last month or so because at the world qualifying events, she did fall during one of the qualifying events, and it didn't end up disqualifying her from competing at the Olympics, and this was completely fair and everything. But she did have at the time it seemed like a really tragic screw up there and very out of character for her, and she was crying and he was apparently crying and was heartbroken and everything, right? And then she got some shit from people this past week for flying in on a private jet to the Olympics instead of going in with the rest of the Dutch Olympic crew. And the reason I think it was unfair of people to criticize her for this, because this was something that one of her sponsors offered and did for her. It's not even something that she set up herself, and it certainly wasn't meant to be some lark. And she is, by all accounts, very hardworking, and no one has ever accused her of getting anywhere through unethical means. So I think that it's great that she won this gold and that he's so happy for her and everything.
The other thing that I would have worried about is when you end up with somebody of his like platform and status, it can be a distraction. So that actually ends up like it's actually a sign of her positive work ethic that achieving, because she's a bona fide influencer. She's got millions of followers, and obviously he has an enormous platform and is very, very famous. Now, that's not, but by the way, do not confuse me saying he's very famous with me saying that either of the Paul brothers are good people. That's not what I'm saying, but in an age now where it seems like people are like lacking in seeing wholesome stories with couples where, you know, people are actually happy and displaying some type of positive relationship dynamic to people. You know, maybe we're just so starved for it that if Jake Paul is the best we can do, oh goodness, we are screwed as a society. But you can take it for what it is and say that he's being supportive of her.
And also what I like about it, I absolutely agree. And what I like about it as well is this is not your typical love story of a guy who has a ton of money and he's got some nobody, maybe a wonderful woman, but some nobody that nobody knows, right? This is a case of what I think is so sweet about it is not just of a guy falling in love, but of a guy falling in love with someone who seems to be actually his equal. I'm not saying that she could beat him in the ring or anything like that. I'm just trying to say, though, someone who has gone as far as she can go in her athletic field and just like what he's striving to do as well. And I think that I always like partnerships where, yes, the woman may be beautiful, but you can see that there's a lot more that the man is attracted to there and vice versa. So again, it's really cute and sweet and I think awesome how much they both support each other. And she was ringside for his big match with Tyson. She looked absolutely terrifying. I didn't know who she was at the time. And I was like, who is this like Viking that's walking in with Jake Paul here?
Is she super tall?
Yeah, very tall and just very, as you'd expect, very built, has giant thighs. I say that with respect. Giant thighs, you know, giant ass. Like she's a big, sexy woman.
So, and again, like when you compare and contrast to how that worked out with Logan Paul and Nina Agdal, and how she and his relationship got dragged into the limelight. It was the definition of like toxic, performative,
so gross.
Social media engineering for all of that stuff. That was like a depressing look at what relationship, but at the same time, like Logan Paul posts a lot of videos at home with his family now. And again, not a good person from everything I've seen about the crypto scams.
See, I don't know much about them. What is it? What is the rap on them? Why are people negative about them?
I mean, people don't like Jake Paul because they believe generally that the fights are fixed and that he's a boxer who takes on people. He's a boxer who fights people that aren't boxers for clout. They're just fantastic businessmen who know how to sell. Like they basically sold the idea where it's like you hate them, so you want to see them get punched in the face, and you'll pay money to watch them get punched in the face. Logan Paul has just scandal after scandal when it comes to things like Crypto Zoo or this recent where he was selling like shares in a Pokemon card that he had, all of that stuff. But what most people will not dispute is that he's come into WWE and despite not being a lifelong performer is a natural. And though he's got a lot of time to choreograph and plan his matches, he's kind of come out head and shoulders above a lot of other people because he's a draw, because again, people hate him and they want to hate on him, but he has natural athletic ability, which he can sell.
Okay. So, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
But for Logan Paul, it's obvious that was very different with Nina Agdal and all of the stuff that came out. With
well, yeah, that was just totally uncalled for. And I don't know, maybe if Dylan Dennis feels like it's worked out for him. I know that he's being sued right now for the revenge porn aspect of it, but I don't know if, I know he got a lot of clicks and there were a lot of people talking about him and people like me who didn't know who the hell he was before that. So maybe he feels like it's worked out for him, but it was gross. And it went way beyond even a critique of, well, I mean, it wasn't his business anyway to critique her dating life, but he was doing things like taking her head and superimposing it on other women's bodies so that it would look like she had dated men that she hadn't dated. And then there were all those pornographic, images at times. It was just gross and wrong. It was like
a follow along of everything you don't want to happen in like a relationship that's played out, through social media as this dude's going in for a fight. It was
right. And you can just imagine if that were your significant other, how much that must have angered and torn up Logan Paul, which was the point. So.
All right. let's go to Super Chats, guys. We've got a bunch to get into here today. Guys, let's get to a crisis party. We are getting very close on a crisis party right now, so you guys should go ahead.
When is your anniversary? When is that coming up? Or isn't there a date coming up pretty soon that was supposed to be? I thought it was Tuesday of some significance, or am I imagining?
For the show? Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is episode 1000. I was going to ask you if you wanted to do Monday next week, because I believe we're going to be doing a different show on Tuesday. I was going to say, I meant to ask you off air.
Gotcha.
But
I'll be able to let you know soon.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Let's. But yeah, guys, next Tuesday is episode 1000. Assuming everything works out correctly and we don't miss anything, which we shouldn't. Everything is on track right now to have our episode 1000 next Tuesday, which is crazy to think that we've. You know, I should be better at this, guys. Like when you do 1,000, I mean, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Maybe I'm not an expert because I've done 1,000 shows.
You just feel like you haven't mastered it. That's exactly to 99.9% of people who would try to do this, who would try to do a stream show, you have mastered it. That's why Tim has you doing one of his big shows.
I want to master it. So
yeah, that's how masters feel. Like there's always more to learn.
All right. This is from Katie. Says, "Hi, Brett and Kurtz. I paid the fine I got from the public transport company because I verbally told migrants wearing COVID masks they are dumb." Look, I still see it. I still see people out in masks. And I have two instincts that battle one another. The one instinct is that there are people with immune deficiency, who are immunocompromised, who may still feel that is necessary for them. Then I go based on what they're wearing and the color of their hair, and I kind of use that as my baseline for, my assumption as to why they're wearing a mask in the year of our Lord 2026. But I wouldn't say anything to them. I wouldn't. I don't care enough to tell somebody that what I think of them, and in that case, do you ever get that desire to say something to somebody when you see somebody outside, or do you even see people with masks in Texas?
Oh, well, first of all, my significant other was one of the few people that I knew who outright always thought it was ridiculous from day one and never wore one. So when you would go to the grocery store and you would see one lone guy not wearing his mask amidst the sea of everyone else, I realize some people might think this is wrong, but he did not believe in it. He thought it was authoritarian and he would not do it. And I always admired him for that, because I actually thought it was authoritarian as well, that expectation and that social pressure. But I would capitulate more times than not to feel embarrassed. So to answer your question, when I see people wearing masks, I am reminded of what I think in retrospect was kind of a shameful period in our history with the COVID overreaction and the authoritarian impulses of people. On the other hand, I get what you're saying. There's some people who genuinely do need it. And I know it's a cultural thing also in Southeast Asia. And when someone is sick, I'll say this, several months ago, I had the flu and I was coughing and stuff. And I felt like it was a polite thing if I were going out to put on a mask, even though I know people say, well, it really doesn't do much good, but there is a barrier there. I get the sense of security from it. So I'm just glad we're past those days where these are questions that I don't have to ask myself as I'm stepping out the doors. Am I going to bow to the pressure to wear this mask today or not? I've just never cared whether they did or not, I guess. I think it's a little bit absurd in the year. I think it's very absurd, but it's just that's their life. It doesn't affect me. Right. And COVID as a time period, that was I loved it because I got to. It was so weird. I got to skate anywhere I wanted. There was nobody outside. I essentially had every street spot in my town to myself. Nobody bothered you. There was one time cops tried to kick me out of this rail, and they did it from across the parking lot because they didn't want to get close. And I was like, that's humiliating. I was like, if you're going to come and tell me to leave, at least come and tell me close up. You're not going to die. I know. It's hilarious. In retrospect, the overreaction that people had at times. So I'm very much to each his own, as long as there's not that pressure there. I think that was the thing with society back then. But Katie, it's absolutely absurd that you got fined for it.
that is absolutely absurd. And your government, because she's from Australia, you have a very overreaching government, which sucks.
Yeah.
Shane H. Wilder says, Happy Taco Tuesday, Kurtz and Brett. Apparently you can't super chat Brett's last name anymore. What the F? Been trying for the last 15 minutes. Somebody else try it. It's not a bribe. It's not me trying to scam you out of money. Somebody else try and super chat. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to send a super chat with my last name. Dasovic. Dasovic. You should do that right now. Brian Bledsoe says, random question. Anyone else just sit in silence for 10 minutes waiting for PCC to start? Just did, and it felt like psycho behavior. I kind of sit, I actually usually have my headphone in, like right up until about 2:57. I have like music, but it's in my bad ear, so it's just kind of like background noise. That's what I listen to right before we go live. Corey Anderson says, if any of these artists meant what they are saying, they would give back any money earned through Wasserman. They don't care because they support illegals doing the same things Epstein brokered. I don't know if I agree that they would have to give back the money, especially if they didn't know anything about it prior, or if they worked for his agency, but they worked for an agent under him or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the protocols and stuff like that.
All right.
I'm still putting together the side-by-side of Phil Collins' wife.
Okay.
For you.
Corey Anderson says, can we get pictures of Bucket and his friends? Yes. Olivia will send some very soon, and we will show them on stream. Everybody loves Bucket. Also, there may be a special guest on Q to the Day for episode 1000, so you should stay tuned for that.
I was gonna say, do y'all have some? Oh, I was gonna say, do y'all have some special stuff planned, or you don't know yet?
Not yet.
We're
working on it.
I gotcha. You gonna have Kid Rock?
Yeah. I tweeted like last year when all of the Jimmy Kimmel stuff was going on. I'm like, you can ignore the culture war. Like, I won't pretend I like Kid Rock. You don't have to pretend that Jimmy Kimmel is funny. Like that is a silent agreement we can all. We can all enter into. We don't have to pretend to like stuff that we don't like. I don't have to pretend to like Kid Rock. I'm not going to do that. Corey Anderson says, Jester gooning is what we do now. Always and forever.
Jester gooning?
You'd have to look it up. Mary explained it yesterday, and my eyes,
I'll look it up.
glazed over.
Okay.
Shane H. Wilder says, the great French psychoanalyst Shaka Khan said, Shaka, Shaka, Shaka Khan. That is true.
Yes, that was me dropping some pretentiousness on you, but he was really fascinating. He was a Freudian, and he was really interested in desire. This is one of the questions he was interested in, is why, when we get what we want, are we often still dissatisfied?
Is Shaka Khan still alive?
Shaka Khan, I don't know though.
Is Shaka Khan still alive?
Shaka Khan.
Would Shaka Khan be in the Epstein files? Like, it feel like when I saw something about Deepak Chopra being in the Epstein files, I was like, is there anybody not in there?
Okay, here we go with Phil Collins' wife before. Okay, there we go. So, yes, before and after.
My goodness. The first one looks like Zendaya and Chrissy Teigen.
She's beautiful. Yeah, you can see why he fell for her. And then, unfortunately,
I don't know what the second one is. All right. Corey Anderson says, speaking of Alpha Dog, you can see Olivia Wilde's best assets in that movie.
She does display a lot. She plays a complete bitch in that. That's a great movie, by the way. I want to recommend to everyone. If you like true crime, it is dark. It's a dark movie. Also, Anton Yelchin is in it, which makes it even eerier.
I was explaining. Okay, so somehow the other day, Olivia was on... She does the Discord show for Timcast, and she was explaining the horrors of being married to somebody who every time an actor is on screen that dies, I have to tell her about how the actor died, and I had to tell her about Anton Yelchin and getting pinned by his car against a barrier.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. There used to be, apparently there used to be some footage, like security camera footage that had gotten leaked or something, but you can't, I don't think you can find it anymore. But I was reading about him because my mom actually, it's interesting you mentioned that about him, but my mom and I watched Alpha Dog the other day. She hadn't seen it. She likes true crime. And I mentioned to her that what had happened to him, and she hadn't heard the story either. Yeah, it's not a good death either, because it wasn't instant. So that's kind of how I feel about Paul Walker too. That one is a bigger downer. So. Anyways.
The Anton Yelchin, he was in Terminator Salvation, if I remember correctly. And I really
he was in
that.
Star Trek. He was Scotty, right, in Star Trek.
And also, he was in a very pivotal early season episode of Criminal Minds, which was my first exposure to him. So it's like early days of his career. But yeah, another one of those ones that's very sad to see. All right, we've got more super chats here. Hold on. Corey Anderson says the best rom-com is Sweet Home Alabama. That's the one with
McDreamy or whatever, right?
What's her name?
Patrick Dempsey and Reese Witherspoon and Josh Lucas.
Yeah.
I know all, and it is a good movie. It's a pretty good movie. Yeah.
Josh Lucas was in the television adaptation of The Firm. You can't replace Tom Cruise.
Was it not very good? I didn't try it.
He also played the kind of doormat cheating husband of Deborah Messing in the TV series Mysteries of Laura, which was a crime. It was a vehicle for Deborah Messing, and very, very feminist, and still I liked it. Thank you.
I'll party with this coat.
There you go. Okay. Thank you, guys. I do like it when the crisis party goes off in the studio rather than over the headphones. It's better that way.
Oh.
It's, over the headphones is more of a hassle. It's better when it goes. We have to make sure. Sometimes it resets. We got to make sure that it resets properly and doesn't start over. Okay, very good.
What makes that go off again? What triggers it?
$100. So every time we get $100 in super chats. So you guys could get us a second crisis party. You just got to get us another $100. Sweet Home Alabama is also one of those ones that every generation knows because it lived in every bargain basement bin for a DVD.
Right,
DVD. Like it was in the $5 movie bin of every store.
Yeah, you're right. That type of movie.
There were a lot of movies like that. Deja Vu with Denzel Washington and Jim Caviezel was one of those movies. I literally I didn't see it until 2 years ago. But I felt like I had seen it because I've been looking at the cover for 15 years.
Funny.
Same with his version of The Manchurian Candidate. Okay. Corey Anderson says, Colonel, you look like the type of lady that enjoys the movie Practical Magic, which is a great rom-com as well.
Yes, except that it's got a horrible villainess playing one of the lead roles, Evan Rachel Wood.
Ah, yes. Hard to support something if you
No, it's a good movie. No, it is a good movie. I think she was trying to get in the sequel, but it didn't work out. She was lobbying to be put in the sequel or a remake. Wasn't there a remake? Isn't there?
I thought there was a remake.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know. I like that movie. Okay, I tell you though, I tend to go toward darker stuff. I liked The Craft. That was my guilty pleasure back in the day. It's completely outdated now, but that old horror movie with Neve Campbell.
I just saw Skulls for the first time. The one with Paul Walker and
Joshua Jackson.
It's so ridiculous. It's awesome.
It probably is.
The funny thing about it is it's a quintessential example of why covers of the movie matter, because it's too absurd for how serious the cover of the movie makes it look.
I was thinking a movie that's comparably aged poorly, maybe even more, is The Net with Sandra Bullock.
Yes, I saw that for the first time. That was so. I've been telling people that I do this thing. That's one of our inside jokes. That's if you watch early 2000s TV, everything's on the net. Also, they're gonna hack the mainframe. Everything's on the mainframe.
And all of the technology is so new and cool, and the net.
That kind of gave way to the network televisionification of the dark web, which they call it. It's the dark net. It's scary because it says dark in the name. But I saw The Net for the first time a couple of years ago. It was pretty good.
Was it? See, I don't even remember. It probably was. Yeah, it probably was. I don't remember.
But then again, my standards are so low now that I'm you know what? This is competently made. All right. Chief Corey Anderson. I guess Chief Corey Anderson is with you on the military ranks. He's, you know, you're a colonel. He's, yeah.
Well, he probably outranks me. I mean, well, it's not a good fit. Different systems, but the chief's gonna, the chief's gonna be the head, I think.
All right, Corey Anderson says, Colonel, does your dude ever walk by nude while you're streaming to screw with you? Because that would be funny.
If that were to happen, I'm probably so intently focused on the stream and not screwing up, I probably wouldn't react, probably wouldn't see it. I'm trying to think of something. Now there was an occasion where I was streaming and it was something. I was interviewing someone. It was pretty important, and he had dropped like a painting or something on his foot trying to move it, and it broke his toenail and like basically almost broke his toe. And he came into the room and he was like, I need help. And I thought at first that he was just being dramatic and whatever. And I was like, I'm trying to do something here, basically. Yeah. And he's like broken his toe.
You're like, I'm a little busy. Could we worry about your broken toe?
Exactly. That's pretty much what happened. I'm still not able to forget that, as you can imagine. It's been brought up to me many times.
Reminds me of the scene from Wayne's World where Cassandra's on the phone and Wayne's trying to make her laugh by doing the tummy roll. Yeah. Chief Corey Anderson says Das Ovic didn't work. He put the O as a 0. I don't know. It's still not letting them super chat my last name.
Oh.
Why, is there like an evil Dasovic that you can't put into text? Has there been like a Hitler-esque Dasovic? I don't know.
That's interesting.
Shane H. Wilder says, YouTube wouldn't let me send my joke, LOL. I wonder what your joke was. Red Snow says, Brett, dat so sick. Nope, didn't work. Darn YouTube. Oh, we got another one here. Looks like somebody made it work here. A couple of people. Reg Eric says, it's a Dasovic. There you go. It worked for you. You even capitalized it and everything. Chief Corey Anderson says, is Phil going to be back on Thursday? Yeah, so that's the thing. Phil was supposed to be on this Thursday. Something has come up. He said he would do the Thursday after that, but I believe I'm going to be having Vera Dark on that day. So we're trying to work it out and get all of the scheduling fixed out. I like the idea of being able to have people from the company in on Thursdays and do the show in studio here at least once a week. It's a different dynamic, so... though to be honest, like it's been going very well here since I had to switch internet browsers. We stopped having those. I mean, knock on.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Knock on wood. We stopped having those catastrophic failures of. Yeah. Looks like it was on my end and not your guys' end.
Well, probably the weather didn't, because we did do it. We had done it once or twice and it was okay. I feel like the weather impacted too. But yeah.
But now I have to knock on wood because just as soon as everything starts going well. That's when everything falls apart again, as everybody knows. All right. Chief Corey Anderson. Oh, I'm sorry. Read that one. Sorry. Carnell says, Brett, the voice of reason, Dasovic. Well, nobody interesting is ever known as the voice of reason. That's for sure. I'll take it. But you never get known being the voice of reason. Not on the internet anyways. Shane H. Wilder says, well, maybe YouTube just hates me sending money. No, it doesn't. Trust me. They told me, Shane. They love it when you guys send money to us. That's totally not me saying that. It's YouTube that said that. Cesario JPN says, Brett, to your question, Charlie Sheen isn't in the Epstein files. Shocking given the time he was having the time of his life around 2.5 Men.
He probably would have been bored by that lifestyle. He was like hanging out with hookers and crack dealers and porn stars. Like, why would you even need Epstein in that case?
Yeah, was he married or dating that like a porn star, like Brie Olson or whatever her name was? He was definitely.
Oh yeah, he did for a while. But I mean, I just mean behind the scenes. Apparently, there was just always a party going on at Sheen's house if you'd signed the NDA.
Charlie Sheen. What a guy.
He's come out of it, apparently. He made it.
Look, I'll take Charlie Sheen over Martin Sheen any day. Okay.
Yeah? Well, why? Because Martin Sheen is too much of a political activist?
Yeah, the West Wing. My wife's favorite show of all time. And every time I'm like, listen to this sloganeering bullshit.
See, I don't even think of that. I still think of him as like classic, like Apocalypse Now Sheen. But yeah, you're right. I never got into that show either. So I think I missed. That was another like kind of monoculture thing.
Yeah, it's very well made, and the dialogue is very, very. It's got its own identity. It's very well made. but the politics of it are just too on the nose for me. I did a short a while back about like the scene where Rob Lowe's character tells this woman about how it's like, I believe that schools should, because he works for the government. He's like, I believe schools should be palaces. They should be unbelievably expensive for us and free to the people. I'm like, who are the absolute buffoons who don't understand that the people are you? You are the people, asshole. Fuck you.
Yes, you're right. A number of those shows, particularly Turn of the Millennium, I'm thinking of a movie that's probably your audience hasn't seen. That's it's really good, but it is too on the nose. That's its weakness. The Contender with Jeff Daniels and Joan Allen. This was a movie about where Jeff Daniels is trying to nominate a woman, Joan Allen, to be his VP. And of course, there's all of this, turn of the 2000s, like gender politics, and it has a very West Wing feel to it. I think it even might have been written partly by one of the West Wing writers. So anyway, I was thinking about that. Like, yeah,
I think
that's the downside with that.
Aaron Sorkin wrote all of the West Wing. Maybe not, he did pretty much all of it. Until he got removed, he left the show in the later seasons, couldn't watch a single episode. And I will say, of all the Sheens, Emilio Estevez is the best of the Sheens. Let's be real. I'm from Minnesota. He was Coach Bombay.
Where has he been?
I don't know what he's doing these days. Shane H. Wilder over on Rumble says, a catastrophic fall after a margarita. Been there. Yeah. Not good. All right. Let me see here. What is this? Zach Yandel says Discord is rolling out a new age verification system. Okay.
I guess you have to be how old?
I think I saw something
18?
about this. It said like they would do age verification for stuff labeled sensitive content or something.
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Chief Corey Anderson says a colonel is an officer, a chief is enlisted. She outranks me, although I am in the military. So, yeah.
Okay. You are in the military? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah. Corey Anderson is in the military.
Oh, well, hello to you. Can you say where you're stationed or?
I don't know if he's on deployment right now. He usually informs us before he goes on deployment. But Corey Anderson can let us know
where his base is. So my guy spent time at Bliss. And what's the one in Louisiana? Anyway, I'm blanking. Lee? Polk and Bliss, and then he was overseas in Iraq for 2 deployments, and Germany also, Schweinfurt, Germany.
Olivia has pointed out that yes, Aaron Sorkin did leave the show in the 5th season. It's so funny too because I know for a fact, and this is a flaw of my own design where it's like my own beliefs get in the way. If I had watched The West Wing before I was kind of initiated into politics, before I really knew what was going on, I guess what you would have ostensibly called a red pill moment back in the day, back when that term meant something that had nothing to do with the manosphere. But when you came to realize that the world isn't what it is people claim it to be, and that things are a lot more complicated, I would have very much loved The West Wing because the characters are written exceptionally well, and there were characters in the show, like his chief of staff, I really, really liked. It was the pretentiousness of some of the characters that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I wrote a post on Instagram the other day, or I'm sorry, on X the other day, basically said the hardest thing for me to articulate, and I can't honestly do it well, is the need for characters to be likable. And likable doesn't mean nice necessarily. And it's hard to describe because Olivia, I've tried to get her to watch House. She can't stand it. I don't blame her. If you don't have like an affinity for the characters, like
Olivia, you get him to watch Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and then you have to watch House for 2 hours.
No, well, House is a show, so she's I got her to sit through. I got her to sit through like a couple of episodes. She liked a little bit of season 4 when they were initiating the new team. But I understand why people don't like the character. He's abrasive. He's rude. He's childish. But there is something about him that's tied more to the fact that he lives in constant pain. And his there is the fixation that men will have on the idea of hyper competency. You know, to know you're right and then prove yourself to be right is something that men can absolutely. I mean, I think anybody.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Men especially would gravitate towards that, and the idea that the ends justify the means. Oftentimes, doing awful things in the service of a good final outcome, and he certainly does that. But with a lot of other stuff, it's like I just turn stuff off now. If a character is snarky in the first 10 minutes, I'm just like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. And I just turn it off. Doesn't work for me. People also would list, there's a lot of characters like that, though. That I also said, and I give it, and I fully understand, I said, I probably gave characters more leeway when I did drugs. when I was, you know, using downers, I was probably more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because I was altered. Now I don't have that same leeway. All right, Corey Anderson says, I am stationed at Fort Meade, but am currently in Virginia Beach for training. I'm assuming VB means Virginia Beach.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Cool. Well, good for you.
All right, guys. Before, actually, you know what? Let me go and check on Rumble, make sure that we are all caught up over there. People are arguing about whether I should watch Star Trek. I'm never going to do it.
Hey, I have a question, though, for the audience, something that I don't know if you and Mary have covered. Did you and Mary talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson and, like, what was up with this like weird pose? Did y'all talk about him, or weird facial expression?
Oh, is he smoldering? That's smoldering, right?
Okay, so weird thing. I thought he was like an unpretentious type, but this wasn't just a pose that he did, this wasn't a facial expression that he did just for this photographer. Like there was video taken of him walking in with his wife, and like he's holding that thing like the whole time, and I'm just thinking like, does he really think that looks good, or what's the purpose of that? Because everyone was making fun of him, and they were comparing him to Ben Stiller in that movie with Owen Wilson. You know, where he's
Zoolander.
Like, Zoolander.
Yeah,
right?
he's doing Blue Steel. The funny thing about that is, remember when who was the actor who played Kang who got Me Too'd? The Marvel actor. I forgot his name.
Renner? No, not Renner.
No,
who plays Kang? I don't know. See, I don't know about those movies.
What was that guy's name?
You can look it up.
Anyways, he always made that face, and Mary would point it out all the time that
because his face it doesn't normally. I think that's what's weird is if he had made this expression before, and that was like, oh, that's just his trademark thing. But he'd never done that before, and then he goes to this event. I mean, it was a fashion event, but he goes to this event, and he's just got this fish face thing plastered on his face the whole time. I'm just thinking, what is up with that? Anyway,
what was his name? Oh my gosh, it's Jonathan Majors. Thank you, Destroyer to All Trolls. By the way, yeah, he did. Olivia said, "Oh, hi, Brett," in the chat. I tried to type "hi toots" and it wouldn't let me. YouTube wouldn't let me send the chat. It said error. Try again. It wouldn't let me send it. It's not letting me be sexist on the YouTube chat. By the way, Destroyer to All Trolls, you are correct. That same character archetype that I described does describe Doctor Strange. That character, he's absolutely that same type of self-absorbed, sure he's right person. And I'm assuming that they thought that he was right for the role because Benedict Cumberbatch played Sherlock Holmes before that and embodied a lot of those characteristics when he was playing his version of Sherlock Holmes. I mean, all the versions of Sherlock Holmes are kind of like that, but yeah. I did spell it wrong, Olivia. I spelled it Toots, Tootz. Said sup toots, and it said no. So it wouldn't let me be sexist on here, which is extremely rude. Corey Anderson said, do you claim your dude's rank, or did you? I mean,
no, he never got up beyond captain. So I'm stealing the rank from the Apocalypse Now general.
All right, guys.
Colonel.
Before we go, would you all hit the like button, please, on this episode and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. Please and thank you. The more people that you share the show out with, the faster this channel can grow. It really doesn't exist. PCC isn't a thing without you guys watching. So as always, I want to thank you guys so much for all the support that you show this channel. We would not be here without you. Kurtz, where can they find you?
I'm Colonel Kurtz 99 on all platforms, mostly Insta, X, and YouTube.
Yeah, guys, go and I've tagged her in the description of this, so you should go down there.
Oh yeah, I need to share it
and
too.
Give her a follow and watch her content. You can also see you do videos with Olivia too.
Yeah, we just did one dragging Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, so check it out. Both of our channels, each one has a video.
It is an ode to my wife's dispassionate ability to be humorous. That
she was great in character.
She's a huge Taylor Swift fan, but she can still make fun of her.
Well, that was true. She did, and she was very much in character. You know, it's hard for a lot of people to put on a skit like that because people are too afraid that they might look stupid, and so they can't really give it a good effort. So that's good. She was able to do that.
When Kurtz comes and he's like, "I got the wigs, I've got the props. It's time to get down to business." It's no joke.
That's right. But you know what? Her video or her appearance on that live stream, the Alex Cuesta show or whatever, that was really good. That was really interesting. They talked about Elijah Schaefer, so people should check it out.
Yep. All right, a couple more super chats here from Shane H. Wilder. He says, new meme with you two is up. I will check that out after the show. Greg Duvier says, I like Totos. Yes, indeed. I do as well, my friend. All right, if you guys would like to follow me, I am on Instagram and X at Brett Dasovic on both those platforms. I'm trying to catch my breath here. There we go. At Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. This show is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would like to listen rather than just watch the show, you can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, which is a great way to also help the channel out. And if you want to follow us on social media, Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.